She noticed the red mark on his chest and whispered 2 words that saved his life. What she didn't realize was that the man seated in the corner booth was a vampire king, and he hadn't forgotten the waitress who saw what others couldn't. The laser dot appeared at 2:47 a.m., crawling across table 6 like a crimson spider. Sarah spotted it before her conscious mind registered it. 3 years of combat reflexes from Kandahar, responding faster than thought. The red point settled on the chest of the man in the corner booth, the one who'd been sitting with untouched black coffee for the past hour. Her tray clattered to the floor. The crash shattered the late-night quiet of Marlowe's diner. Ketchup bottles burst across the linoleum. The elderly trucker at the counter jerked awake. Sarah was already in motion, her body remembering what her mind had tried to forget. She positioned herself directly between the booth and the window. "Don't speak," she whispered, leaning close enough to catch expensive cologne and something else, something cold. "Don't move." The man's eyes met hers, gray, impossibly serene, ancient in a way that made her stomach drop. He asked no questions, showed no panic, simply observed her with the stillness of someone who'd witnessed this before. The bullet shattered the window with a sound like reality cracking. It missed Sarah's shoulder by inches, tearing through the condiment shelf behind the booth. Glass and metal fragments scattered across red vinyl. The man remained motionless, never blinking, continuing to watch her with those gray eyes while chaos erupted around them. "Everybody down!" Sarah's command cut through the screaming. The trucker dove behind the counter. The cook, old Dale, who'd hired her when no one else would, vanished into the kitchen. Then the other customers moved, 4 of them positioned throughout the diner. They'd seemed ordinary 30 seconds earlier. A businessman with his phone, a couple sharing fries, a woman completing a crossword. Now they moved with synchronized precision, weapons materializing from jackets and purses, establishing a defensive perimeter around the booth, around him. "Secure the perimeter," the man said quietly, his voice audible despite the chaos. "Locate the shooter, keep witnesses unharmed." The businessman was already at the door, scanning the street. The couple separated, flanking the windows. None appeared surprised by the gunfire. None moved like humans. Too fast, too fluid, too certain. Sarah's hands trembled. Her therapist said the shaking would eventually fade, that PTSD was simply her body remembering fear. Right now, her body remembered other things: the weight of tactical gear, the smell of burning fuel, the way Martinez had looked at her in those final seconds before the IED detonated, trusting her judgment. She'd been wrong that day, too slow. But tonight, "You saved my life," the man said. Sarah looked at him, really looked. Designer suit, probably worth more than her car. Dark hair swept back from a face that could be 30 or 50 or anywhere between. Pale skin that seemed to absorb the fluorescent light rather than reflect it, and those eyes, watching her with an intensity that made her feel like a specimen under examination. "I saw the laser. Training kicked in." "Training," he smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Military?" "I'm medic, 82nd Airborne. I'm out now." Clearly not entirely out. He stood in one smooth motion, adjusting his cuffs. "What's your name?" "Silva. Sarah Bleak." She stepped back, creating space, her mind struggling to process what had just occurred. "Who are you?" "Someone who values quick thinking." He extracted his wallet, removed $300 bills and placed them on the table. "For the damages, and your discretion." "I don't need your money." "Yes, you do." His voice remained gentle but firm. "This diner requires repairs, your manager needs an explanation, and you need a reason to forget this happened." The businessman returned, leaning close to whisper something Sarah couldn't hear. The man nodded, then looked back at Sarah. "The shooter has fled. You're safe. Everyone here is safe." He paused at the booth's edge. "Thank you, Sarah Blake. Truly." He walked toward the exit, his people forming around him in formation, professional, military grade. Sarah had seen security details before, but this was different. These people moved like they were protecting a head of state, or something worse. "Wait," Sarah called. He stopped, hand on the door, and looked back. She didn't know what compelled her to look down at that moment, some instinct, some whisper of wrongness. The chrome napkin dispenser sat on the counter, polished to a mirror shine. She could see herself in it, could see Dale peering out from the kitchen, could see the trucker slowly rising to his feet. She couldn't see the man in the suit. The door stood open in the reflection, but the space where he stood was empty, a void shaped like a person. Sarah's breath caught. The man smiled, and this time it reached his eyes, cold and knowing. Smart girl, most people never notice. Then he was gone, the door swinging shut behind him. His security detail vanished like smoke into the pre-dawn darkness. Outside, a black sedan pulled from the curb without headlights, disappearing into the maze of sleeping streets. Sarah stood frozen, staring at the chrome dispenser, at her own pale reflection, at the empty space where a man should have been. Jesus Christ, Sarah! Dale emerged from the kitchen, flour dusting his apron. What the hell was that? I don't know. Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. I really don't know. But she did know. Somewhere deep in the part of her brain that had kept her alive in Kandahar, that made her notice the laser, that recognized patterns in chaos, she knew. The trucker was already calling the police. Dale was surveying the damage, calculating insurance and repairs. Normal people doing normal things after an abnormal night. Sarah picked up the $300 bills. They were genuine, heavy stock, crisp and new. She held them to the light, searching for anything unusual. In the street outside, she saw something move, a figure on the rooftop across from the diner, barely visible against the night sky, watching, waiting. Sarah stepped away from the window, pulse hammering. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against all instinct, she answered. Sarah Blake? Who is this? Someone who witnessed what you did tonight. Someone who's very interested in meeting you. A pause. Check your locker before you go home. And Sarah, be careful who you save. Some people aren't worth the bullet. The line went dead. Sarah stood in the ruins of Marlowe's diner, holding blood money from a man with no reflection, while somewhere in the darkness, people she couldn't see were deciding her fate. Her shift ended in 3 hours. She had a feeling she wouldn't make it that long. The game had already begun. The envelope was waiting in her locker when Sarah clocked out at 6 a.m. Plain manila, no postage, no name, just tucked between her spare uniform and the photo of her old unit, the one she kept meaning to remove but never did. Her hands remained steady as she opened it. 4 years ago, they would have shaken, but after enough therapy sessions and sleepless nights, she'd learned that fear was simply information. The question was what you did with it.
The first showed her apartment building. Second floor, corner unit, fire escape visible. Someone had taken it from street level, probably yesterday morning based on the lighting. The second showed her walking to the VA clinic on Thursday, her therapy day. She held the coffee from the shop next door, the one that knew her order by heart. The third was from tonight, the diner, the exact moment she'd stepped between the bullet and the man with no reflection. No note, no demands, just a message. We see you. Saw? Dale appeared behind her, making her jump. You okay? You've been staring at your locker for 5 minutes. She closed the envelope, tucked it under her arm. Yeah, just tired. After tonight. I bet. He rubbed his face, exhaustion written in every line. Insurance adjusters coming at 9. Police took statements, said it looked like a drive-by. Wrong place, wrong time. Laughed bitterly. This neighborhood, I keep telling myself it's getting better. Sarah thought about the security detail, the synchronized movements, the way they'd swept the area with military precision. Yeah, wrong place, wrong time. She left through the back exit, scanning the alley before stepping out. Empty, just dumpsters and graffiti and the gray promise of dawn. Her car was parked 2 blocks away. She'd learned not to park close, learned to keep escape routes open, learned that paranoia kept you breathing. The walk felt endless. Every shadow concealed a sniper. Every parked car presented a threat. She made it to her Honda without incident, locked the doors, checked the back seat. Nothing. The drive home took 12 minutes. She counted every one. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it, neat, sparse, the kind of place that looked more like a way station than a home. She checked every room anyway, combat knife in hand. Closet, bathroom, kitchen, under the bed. Clear. She made coffee she wouldn't drink and sat at her kitchen table, spreading out the photographs. Whoever took these was professional, good angles, high resolution. They'd been watching her for at least a week. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She stared at it for 3 rings before answering. "What do you want?" "To talk," the same woman's voice from before. "There's a coffee shop on 5th and Morrison. Sit outside, 30 minutes. And if I don't? Then we'll have a very different conversation, one you won't enjoy." A pause. 30 minutes, Sarah. Don't be late. Click. Sarah set the phone down carefully. She had 2 choices, run or meet. Running meant abandoning everything, her job, her routine, the fragile stability she'd built after discharge. Meeting meant walking into another trap. But traps provided information, and right now, information was the only weapon she had. She changed into jeans and a jacket, slipped the combat knife into her boot, then drove to 5th and Morrison, parking 3 blocks away and approaching on foot. The coffee shop was one of those hipster places with reclaimed wood and overpriced lattes. At 6:45 a.m., it was mostly empty except for early risers and insomniacs. Sarah bought black coffee and sat at an outdoor table where she could see the street. They arrived at exactly 7 a.m., 2 of them, a woman in her 40s, gray suit, government haircut, a younger man, athletic build, the kind of wary stillness that screamed military. They sat without asking permission. "Sarah Blake," the woman slid a badge across the table. "Commander Elizabeth Frost. This is Agent Chen. We need to talk about last night." Sarah glanced at the badge. It looked authentic, but she'd learned that authentic didn't mean trustworthy. "I already talked to the police. The police think it was a drive-by. We know better." Frost pulled out a tablet, turned it to face Sarah. Security footage from the diner. The laser, Sarah stepping in the line of fire, the man with no reflection walking out unharmed. "Who is he?" Sarah said quietly. "His name is Lucian Vale, and he's not human." The words hung in the air like smoke. Agent Chen watched her carefully, probably looking for disbelief or panic. Sarah gave him neither. "I saw the reflection, or the lack of one." Frost nodded, something like respect crossing her face. "Then you're smarter than most. Lucian Vale is what we call a high vampire, over 300 years old, controls most of the East Coast through a network of businesses and political connections. He's also bound by something called the Accords, treaties that keep the supernatural world hidden from civilians." "Why tell me this?" "Because you're already involved." Frost swiped to another image. The diner, but from weeks ago, Sarah serving coffee to different customers. Vale has been coming to that diner for 6 months, always sits in the same booth, always orders coffee he never drinks. "You know why?" Sarah shook her head. "The diner sits on neutral ground, a demilitarized zone where vampire politics are forbidden. He's been holding court there, using the treaty protections to meet with people he can't meet elsewhere." Frost leaned forward. "Last night's shooting wasn't random, it was an assassination attempt, and you ruined it." "I saved his life." "You disrupted a 3-month operation." Agent Chen spoke for the first time, voice hard. "We've been tracking Vale's movements, building a case. That shooting was supposed to draw him out, make him break the Accords. Instead, you made him look like a victim." Sarah's coffee had gone cold in her hands. "So what do you want from me?" Frost and Chen exchanged glances. "He's going to come back. Men like Vale don't leave loose ends. He'll want to know why you helped him, maybe recruit you, maybe kill you." She paused. "We want you to let him approach you, wear a wire, help us build a real case." "And if I say no?" "Then you're on your own when his enemies come calling, because they saw you too, Sarah, and they won't be as patient as we are." Sarah looked down at her reflection in the cold coffee. Still there, still human, still breakable. "I need time to think." "You have 24 hours. Frost stood, sliding a card across the table. "After that, the offer expires, and you're in this alone." They left. Sarah sat in the morning sun, holding a business card and wondering how saving one life condemned her own. Her phone buzzed. Different number this time. A text message. The coffee looks terrible. You should try the place on 7th. Tonight at 10. Come alone. LV. He'd been watching her, right now, maybe for weeks. Sarah looked up, scanning the street. Dozens of windows, hundreds of places to hide. She texted back, "How do I know you won't kill me?" The response came immediately. "If I wanted you dead, you would have died in the diner. See you at 10. Sarah set the phone down carefully. She stood. The sun was rising over the city, painting everything gold and red.
She had 12 hours to decide which monster to trust. Sarah didn't go home. Home meant 4 walls and 1 exit and too many windows. Home meant sitting still while people who saw in the dark decided whether she was useful or disposable. Instead, she drove to the one place that had ever felt safe, the gun range where veterans shot for free on Tuesdays. It was Wednesday, but Jim at the counter owed her a favor. She ran through 2 boxes of ammunition, focusing on breath control and trigger discipline, letting the rhythm quiet the noise in her head. Center mass, breathe, squeeze. The paper targets didn't have gray eyes or government badges. They didn't make promises they might not keep. They just fell when she hit them. By noon, her hands had stopped shaking. By 2, she'd made a decision. She would meet Lucien Vale tonight, but first she needed insurance. The VA clinic was quiet on Wednesday afternoons. Dr. Rashid saw her between appointments, concern creasing his face when she walked in without calling ahead. "Sarah, is everything all right? I need to talk off the record." He closed his office door, gestured to the familiar couch where she'd spent 3 years unpacking Kandahar. What happened? She told him a version of the truth: the shooting at the diner, the mysterious customer, the people following her. She left out the part about vampires and government agencies. That would get her referred to psych eval faster than she could blink. "You're in danger," Dr. Rashid said when she finished. "Have you called the police? They think it was random. They're wrong." "Then call the FBI, witness protection." "I can't." Sarah met his eyes. "I need you to hold something for me. If anything happens, if I disappear or turn up dead, I need you to give it to the police." She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside, copies of the photographs, Commander Frost's business card, and a written account of everything that had happened. Not enough to prove anything, just enough to ask questions. Dr. Rashid held the envelope like it might explode. "Sarah, what are you involved in?" "I'm not sure yet, but I need someone to know I didn't just vanish." She stood. "Thank you for everything." "Wait," but she was already gone. The place on 7th was called Nocturne, upscale, low lighting, the kind of restaurant where entrees cost more than her weekly grocery bill. Sarah arrived at 9:45 p.m., wearing the nicest clothes she owned: black jeans, dark blouse, leather jacket with the knife still in her boot. Commander Frost's wire was taped between her shoulder blades. The host recognized her name immediately. "Miss Blake, Mr. Vale is expecting you. This way, please." He led her through the dining room to a private alcove in the back. Lucien sat alone at a table for 2, a glass of red wine untouched before him. He stood when she approached, old-world manners in a modern suit. "Sarah, thank you for coming." "Like I had a choice." "You always have choices. You chose to save me. You chose to come here." He gestured to the empty chair. "Please." She sat, every nerve on high alert. Up close, he was even more unsettling, beautiful in the way ancient marble was beautiful, cold and perfect and utterly lifeless, no pulse visible in his throat, no breath fogging when he spoke. "You're wearing a wire," he said casually. Sarah's blood went cold. "What?" "Between your shoulder blades. Government issue. Probably FBI or one of their supernatural task forces." He sipped his wine, for show, she realized, since the glass never actually touched his lips. "I'm not offended. It shows you're smart enough to cover your bases." "Are you going to kill me?" If I wanted that, we wouldn't be having dinner. He set down his glass. Tell me about Kandahar. The question hit like a physical blow. How do you... I know everything about you, Sarah Blake. Army medic, 82nd Airborne, honorably discharged after an IED incident that killed 4 members of your unit. You hesitated on a patrol route, second-guessed your lieutenant's orders. The convoy stopped. The bomb detonated 30 seconds later. His gray eyes held hers. You've spent 3 years wondering if you saved yourself through cowardice or intuition. Sarah's throat was tight. You had no right. I had every right. You interfered in my life. I needed to understand why. He leaned forward. Here's what I found. You have an instinct for danger that borders on precognition. You see patterns others miss. In Kandahar, you felt something wrong. Last night, you saw the laser before anyone else. A pause. That's not training. That's a gift. It's trauma. Perhaps both. He signaled the waiter, who appeared instantly. The lady will have the salmon. I'll have nothing. When they were alone again, Lucien continued. The people who visited you this morning, Commander Frost and Agent Chen, they told you I'm a monster, that I break laws and hurt people. They're not entirely wrong. Why are you telling me this? Because I respect you enough to be honest. He folded his hands on the table. I am 347 years old. I've killed more people than you can imagine. I've built an empire on blood and fear and carefully negotiated treaties. I am not a good man, Sarah, but I am a necessary one. Necessary for what? For keeping worse things than me in check. His expression darkened. Do you know why the Accords exist? Why we have neutral zones and treaties and rules? Frost said it keeps the supernatural world hidden. It keeps the supernatural world from destroying the human one. Without structure, without order, vampires would hunt openly. Werewolves would claim territory by slaughter. Witches would wage war for power. He leaned back. I enforce those rules, sometimes with diplomacy, sometimes with violence, but I enforce them. And last night? Last night, someone tried to kill me on neutral ground. Not just to kill me, to make it look like I broke the Accords, to give my rivals justification to move against me. His jaw tightened. The shooter wasn't human. He was sent by House Morrow, my oldest enemy. They wanted war. Sarah processed this. Frost said you've been holding court at the diner, using treaty protections. I was meeting with mediators, trying to prevent exactly the war Morrow wants. He met her eyes. You saved more than my life last night. You saved a fragile peace. Then why are Frost and Chen targeting you? Because they think I'm the greater threat. They're not wrong, but they're not stupid. He slid a folder across the table. Open it. Inside were documents, surveillance photos, financial records, all related to House Morrow. They've infiltrated human law enforcement, Lucien said. Frost doesn't know it, but Agent Chen reports directly to Morrow's people. The wire you're wearing, it's not recording for the government, it's recording for my enemies. Sarah's hand instinctively moved toward her back. That's insane. Check the frequency. It's not FBI standard. He pulled out a small device, thumbed it on. A red light blinked steadily. That's your wire, broadcasting on a private channel. By now, Morrow knows you're here, knows we're talking. The walls felt too close, the air too thin.
They're going to come for you, Lucien said quietly. Not tonight, too public, but soon. They'll make it look like an accident, a robbery gone wrong, maybe a suicide given your PTSD history. Why are you helping me? Because you helped me without asking for anything in return. Because that instinct you have, the one that kept you alive in Kandahar, it's rare, valuable. He stood, buttoning his jacket. And because I'm tired of people serving me out of fear, I'd rather have one ally who chose to stand beside me than 1,000 who had no choice. He placed a business card on the table. Heavy stock, gold embossing. You have 24 hours to decide. Work with Frost and Chen, knowing they're compromised, work with me, knowing what I am, or try to run, knowing Moro will find you anyway. He paused at the alcove's edge. Whatever you choose, Sarah, choose honestly. I have enough liars in my life. Then he was gone, moving through the restaurant like a shadow. Sarah sat alone in the alcove, surrounded by expensive wine she couldn't drink and truths she couldn't verify. Her hand found the wire between her shoulders. She ripped it off and dropped it in the wine glass. The red light blinked once, then died. Outside, someone was watching. Someone was always watching. And Sarah Blake, former Army medic, current diner waitress, had just become the most valuable piece on a board she didn't understand. She left cash on the table and walked into the night, where monsters of every kind were deciding her fate. Sarah made it home at 11:47 p.m. She knew because she checked her phone compulsively every 30 seconds during the drive, half expecting a call from Frost or a text from Lucien or the sudden impact of a car running her off the road. None came, just the quiet hum of late-night traffic and her own hammering pulse. Her apartment building looked the same as always. Peeling paint, flickering hallway lights, Mrs. Chen's cat watching from a third-floor window. Normal. Safe. Lies felt comforting sometimes. She climbed the stairs to her second-floor unit, keys already in hand, checking the doorframe for signs of tampering. Nothing. She unlocked the deadbolt, pushed inside, reached for the light switch. Don't. The voice came from her kitchen. Calm. Familiar. Wrong. Sarah's hand froze on the switch. Her other hand dropped to her boot, fingers closing around the knife handle. Get out of my apartment. In a moment, a match flared in the darkness. Lucien sat at her kitchen table, lighting a candle she didn't own. The flame painted shadows across his face, making him look even less human. You broke into my home. Your lock is garbage. A child could pick it. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit, please. I'm fine standing. No, you're not. You've been running on adrenaline for 36 hours. Your hands are shaking. You haven't eaten since yesterday, and you're trying to decide if that knife in your boot would actually work on me. He tilted his head. It wouldn't. Silver does nothing to us. That's Hollywood nonsense. Sarah didn't move. How did you know about the knife? I can hear your heartbeat from across the room. I can smell the steel and leather oil. After 3 centuries, you learn to notice details. He leaned back. Sit down, Sarah. I promise you're safer with me here than alone. Against every instinct, she sat. Maybe because he was right about the exhaustion. Maybe because if he wanted her dead, she'd already be dead. Maybe because she was just so tired of being afraid. Why are you here? Because in approximately 4 hours, Commander Frost is going to call you. She's going to tell you the wire malfunctioned. She's going to apologize and ask you to wear a new one. Lucien's eyes caught the candlelight, reflecting it back like an animal's. She's going to send you back to Marlowe's diner tomorrow night, where I'll supposedly meet you again. Except this time, they'll have the place surrounded. UV charges, silver rounds, a kill box designed to capture me alive. How do you know this? Because I intercepted their communications 20 minutes ago. Because Agent Chen filed the operational plan at 10:15 p.m. Because House Moro is funding the entire operation through shell companies. He slid a folder across the table. More documents, more proof. She opened the folder. Bank transfers, emails, photos of Chen meeting with people she didn't recognize. It looked real, but then again, everything looked real until it wasn't. You could be lying. I could be. So could Frost. So could Chen. Everyone in your life could be lying except the one person telling you the truth. He smiled without humor. That's the problem with our world. Once you see behind the curtain, you can never be sure of anything again. Stop calling it our world. I'm not part of this. Yes, you are. His voice hardened. The moment you stepped in front of that bullet, you became part of this. House Moro has your face. They have your address. They know about Dale, about your therapy sessions, about the gun range you visit on Wednesdays. He leaned forward. They know you're a loose end, and Moro doesn't leave loose ends alive. The candle flickered. Somewhere in the building, pipes groaned. Normal sounds, safe sounds. "What do you want from me?" Sarah asked quietly. "Honestly, I want to know why you did it." Lucian's mask of control cracked slightly. "You didn't know what I was. You didn't know if I was a good man or a criminal or something worse. You just saw danger and stepped in front of it. Why?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "In Kandahar, I hesitated. My unit stopped. 4 people died because I second-guessed an order." She met his eyes. "I've spent 3 years wondering if I saved myself through cowardice, if I let them die so I could live. And in the diner, I didn't hesitate. I just moved." She touched the table edge, grounding herself. "Maybe I wanted to prove I wasn't a coward. Maybe I wanted to save someone for once instead of surviving while everyone else dies." A bitter laugh. "Or maybe I just have a death wish and excellent reflexes." "You're not a coward," Lucian said softly. "Cowards don't step in front of bullets. They don't meet vampires alone. They don't sit in dark apartments with monsters and demand answers." He stood, moving to the window, looking out at the sleeping city. "You have an instinct for survival that wars with a compulsion for sacrifice. It's rare, dangerous, valuable." There's that word again, valuable. Because it's true. In my world, most people serve out of fear or greed. They can be controlled, predicted, discarded. But someone who acts on pure instinct, someone who saves lives without calculating the cost, that's priceless and terrifying. I'm not working for you.
I'm not asking you to. I'm asking if you want to survive the next 48 hours. He moved back to the table, placing both hands flat on the surface. "Tomorrow night, Frost will send you into that diner. If you go, you'll die. Morrow's people will detonate those UV charges early. Frost and her team will die too. Chen will spin it as a tragic operational failure, and I'll be blamed for all of it. Then I won't go. Then Frost will know you warned me. She'll arrest you as a co-conspirator. You'll disappear into a black site for enhanced interrogation about supernatural threats." His voice was flat, factual. "You'll never see trial, never see daylight. They'll drain every piece of information from you, then dump your body somewhere no one will find it." Sarah's stomach twisted. "Those are my options? Die in the diner or disappear into a black site?" "Those are your options if you try to hide or run." Lucian straightened. "But there's a third option. You help me turn the trap around. You walk into that diner knowing it's a kill box. You wear their wire, you play your part. But we fortify the location first. We document Chen's involvement with Morrow, and when they trigger the trap, we spring ours." His gray eyes held hers. "We expose the conspiracy. Clear my name, save Frost and her people from walking into a slaughter, and maybe keep you alive." "You're asking me to trust you?" "I'm asking you to trust your instincts, the same instincts that saved your life in Kandahar, the same instincts that saw the laser before anyone else." He pulled out a phone, set it on the table. "This is a secure line, encrypted, untraceable. Take it. Think about what I've said. When Frost calls tomorrow morning, you'll have to decide. And if I choose her, then I'll respect your choice and I'll mourn your death." He moved toward the door, pausing at the threshold. "One more thing. The envelope you left with Dr. Rashid, smart move, but Morrow has people in the VA system. If anything happens to you, that envelope disappears before the police ever see it." Sarah's blood went cold. "How did you—" "Because I would do the same thing, because you're predictable in the best way. You plan for failure and hope for success." He opened the door. "Get some sleep, Sarah. Tomorrow's going to be the longest day of your life." "Lucian," she stood, the name feeling strange on her tongue. "If I do this, if I help you, what happens after?" He was quiet for a moment, silhouetted against the hallway light. "After, if we survive?" He glanced back. "You get to decide who you want to be. Human, ally, something in between." A pause. "But first, we have to survive." Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. Sarah stood alone in her apartment, candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. The secure phone sat on her kitchen table like a loaded gun. Outside, the city slept. Inside, Sarah Blake made a choice that would either save her life or end it. She picked up the phone.
3 words appeared on the screen. "Welcome to the game." Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She texted back, "Tell me what to do." The reply came instantly. "First, we teach you how to survive. Pack a bag, someone will pick you up in 10 minutes. And Sarah, thank you for trusting me." She read the message twice, then started packing, because sometimes the only way to survive was to run toward the fire instead of away from it, and Sarah Blake had always been good at running toward things that could kill her. The black sedan arrived at 12:23 a.m. No headlights, no engine noise until it was already at the curb. Sarah watched from her window, duffel bag at her feet, combat knife in her pocket, and the secure phone clutched in her hand like a talisman. The driver didn't get out, didn't honk, just waited. Sarah took one last look at her apartment. The threadbare couch, the stack of medical textbooks she kept meaning to sell, the photo of her unit that she'd finally turned face down. 4 years of rebuilding a life that was about to disappear again. She grabbed her bag and left without locking the door. What was the point? The sedan's back door opened as she approached. Marcus was inside, the same composed man who'd been at the diner. Up close, he looked middle-aged, military posture, eyes that missed nothing. "Miss Blake." He gestured to the empty seat. "We don't have much time." She climbed in. The door closed with a sound like a bank vault's ceiling. The sedan pulled away smoothly, and Sarah watched her building shrink in the side mirror until it disappeared. Where are we going? Somewhere safe, somewhere Morrow's people can't follow. Marcus handed her a bottle of water and a protein bar. "Eat. Lucian said you haven't had a meal in 2 days." He seems to know everything about me. He makes his business to know everything about everyone. It's kept him alive for 3 centuries. Marcus smiled slightly. "You'll get used to it, or you'll hate it. Most people split 50-50. Sarah unwrapped the protein bar, surprised by how hungry she actually was. "How long have you worked for him?" 32 years. He turned me in 1993 after I took a bullet meant for him in Budapest." Marcus smiled slightly. "I was CIA then, thought I was hunting a terrorist, turned out I was hunting the one person keeping Eastern Europe from descending into a supernatural bloodshed." "He turned you, made you a vampire." "After asking my permission, after explaining what it meant, after giving me 3 days to decide." Marcus glanced at her. "Lucian doesn't force loyalty, he earns it, you'll see." The sedan wound through empty streets heading east toward the industrial district. After 20 minutes, they pulled into an underground garage beneath what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Security cameras tracked their movement. Armed guards, human and otherwise, watched from elevated positions. This is the sanctum, neutral ground owned by no house, claimed by no faction. It's where the Accords were signed in 1823. He led her through steel doors into a space that didn't match the exterior. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art that belonged in museums, and people, dozens of them, human and vampire, mixing freely, all moving with purpose. The war room's this way. They descended a staircase into a command center that would make Pentagon analysts jealous. Screens displayed maps, surveillance feeds, financial data. A dozen people worked at terminals, coordinating something massive. Lucian stood at the center, studying a 3-dimensional hologram of Marlowe's diner. He looked up when they entered. "Sarah? Good, we have 18 hours before Frost makes contact." He gestured to the hologram. "This is your battlefield. Let's make sure you survive it." The next 6 hours were the most intense crash course of Sarah's life. They started with vampire basics. Strengths, speed, strength, enhanced senses, rapid healing. Weaknesses, UV light causes burns, not death. Sunlight is lethal only with prolonged exposure. Running water is a myth. Garlic is annoying, not harmful. Stakes through the heart work, but so does decapitation or massive trauma.
"Forget everything you learned from movies," Marcus said, demonstrating on a training dummy. "We're not magical, we're biological. Altered humans with enhanced capabilities and significant drawbacks." Then they moved to hunter tactics, UV grenades, silver-jacketed rounds designed to fragment inside the body, blessed weapons. Psychological warfare, Lucian called it, only works if you believe it does. Tactical formations, kill boxes, extraction protocols. Frost is military trained, Lucien explained, marking positions on the hologram. She'll position her team in overlapping fields of fire. Chen will control communications. They'll have a sniper on the roof across from the diner, same position as the original shooter. How do we counter it? By making the diner itself a weapon. He zoomed in on the building's interior. We replace the windows tonight with UV reflective glass, install mirrors in strategic positions, rewire the electrical system so we can cut power on demand, position our people as customers before Frost's team arrives. Sarah studied the hologram. Dale, he'll be working that night. He can't be part of this. Lucien nodded. We'll create a gas leak in the kitchen 2 hours before the operation. Building inspector will evacuate the diner. Dale stays safe and we have cover to make final preparations. What about the customers? Real ones. We'll fill the diner with our people before any civilians arrive. Anyone who walks in after 9 p.m. gets turned away. Health code violation. Temporary closure. Pick your excuse. He met her eyes. No innocent casualties. That's a line I don't cross. They rehearsed her role next. Sarah would arrive at the diner at 8:45 p.m., wearing Frost's new wire. She'd sit in her usual section, visible from all angles. Lucien would enter at 9 p.m. exactly, sitting in the corner booth. You'll serve me coffee, Lucien said, walking her through the choreography. We'll have a conversation that sounds incriminating but proves nothing. When Frost gives the signal to move in, you drop to the floor behind the counter. Marcus will cut the power. Then we trigger our countermeasures. What countermeasures? A woman appeared from the shadows, pale, beautiful, dangerous. That's where I come in. Isabel Morrow, pleasure to meet you. Sarah's hand instinctively moved toward her knife. House Morrow. Yes, specifically the black sheep who got tired of my family's death cult. Isabel's smile was all teeth. I've been feeding Lucien information for 6 months. Tomorrow night, I'm going to feed my family into a trap. Lucien stepped between them. Isabel will attend the operation as Chen's backup. When the shooting starts, she'll capture Chen alive. We need him to testify about Morrow's infiltration. You're trusting her? Sarah asked. I'm trusting her self-interest. House Morrow wants her dead as much as they want me dead. Enemy of my enemy, and all that. He turned to Isabel. Show her the evidence. Isabel pulled up files on a nearby screen, financial records, emails, audio recordings of Chen reporting to Morrow operatives. It was comprehensive, damning, and exactly what they needed to prove the conspiracy. If this works, my family loses their foothold in human law enforcement. They'll be exposed, sanctioned under the Accords, and I'll finally be free of their vendetta. She looked at Sarah. So yes, I'm motivated to keep you alive. They spent the next hours fortifying the diner. Sarah watched through surveillance feeds as Lucien's people worked, replacing glass, installing mirrors, running new electrical lines. They moved with inhuman speed and precision, completing in hours what should take days. At 6 a.m., Marcus brought her food. Real food. Eggs, toast, coffee that didn't taste like motor oil. You should rest, he said. You have 12 hours until Frost calls. I can't sleep. Then at least sit down. You've been standing for 6 hours. Sarah collapsed in a chair, exhaustion finally catching up. Around her, the command center hummed with activity, vampires and humans working together, preparing for a battle that might save or destroy everything. Lucien approached, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one, kept the other for appearance. You're doing well, he quieted. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Overconfidence kills. He sat beside her. When this is over, assuming we survive, you don't have to stay. I meant what I said. You get to choose your life. Why does it feel like I'm choosing between different kinds of cages? Because you are. That's the truth no one tells you. Freedom is choosing which cage has the best view. He sipped his coffee that he couldn't taste. But at least you'll be choosing. That's more than most people get. At 8:47 a.m., Sarah's regular phone rang. Unknown number. She looked at Lucien. He nodded. She answered. Hello, Sarah. It's Commander Frost. We need to talk about last night's equipment malfunction. The game had begun.
and Sarah Blake was betting her life she'd chosen the right side. The wire felt different this time. Frost had apologized profusely about the malfunction, handed her a new device with sincere eyes and what might have been genuine regret. Sarah wore it taped between her shoulder blades, knowing every word would be heard by people who wanted her dead. "Remember," Frost had said during the morning briefing, "act natural. Serve him like any other customer. We'll handle the rest." Chen had smiled at that, the smile of a man who knew something no one else did. Now, at 8:52 p.m., Sarah stood outside Marlowe's, or what remained of it. The bullet holes had been patched, new windows glimmed in the streetlights, a "reopening tonight" sign hung in the door. Inside, every customer was Lucian's. She recognized the businessman from the first night, now reading a different paper. The couple sharing fries were vampires she'd met at the Sanctum. The woman doing a crossword was Isabel Morrow, wearing a wire identical to Sarah's. Dale wasn't there. The gas leak had been reported at 6 p.m. Building inspector had red-tagged the kitchen. He'd texted her 20 minutes ago. "Stay safe. Something feels wrong about tonight." She replied, "I know. Trust me." Sarah pushed through the door. The bell chimed. Newly installed, Lucian's idea. It would mask other sounds when things went loud. She clocked in, tied her apron, and took her position. Through the new windows, she could see Frost's team assembling, vans parked 2 blocks away, snipers on rooftops, Chen coordinating from a mobile command post. The trap was set, both of them. At 9 p.m. exactly, Lucian walked through the door. He wore the same designer suit from the first night, moved with the same predatory grace, but this time Sarah saw what she'd missed before, the way other vampires subtly straightened when he entered, the weight of 3 centuries in every step. He sat in the corner booth. Sarah approached with coffee pot in hand, heart hammering against her ribs. "Evening? Coffee, please." His gray eyes held hers for a fraction of a second. "Ready?" She poured, hands steady despite everything. "Anything else?" "Just your company, if you have a moment." She slid into the booth across from him, the signal Frost was waiting for. Through the window, she saw Chen speak into his radio. "You look tired," Lucian said, loud enough for the wire. "Haven't been sleeping well. Strange things happening lately." "I imagine so. Stepping in front of bullets tends to complicate life." He sipped his coffee. "I wanted to thank you properly, perhaps discuss future employment opportunities. I have a job."
You have a job that pays $9 an hour and offers no health insurance. I'm offering something better. This was the scripted part, the conversation designed to sound incriminating while proving nothing. Sarah played her role, letting Frost hear what she expected, a vampire recruiting a useful human. Outside, Chen gave another signal. The assault team moved into position. In the kitchen, Marcus monitored the electrical panel. On the roof across the street, Lucian's sniper tracked Frost's sniper. Isabel stood up, walking toward the bathroom, passing close enough to Chen's position to hear his next transmission. "All units prepared to move on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Then everything happened at once. Chen's voice, "Execute, execute, execute." The doors burst open. Frost's team flooded in, weapons raised, shouting commands. "Nobody move, feral agents." Sarah dropped behind the counter as rehearsed. Frost leveled her weapon at Lucian. "Lucian Vale, you're under arrest for violations of..." The UV charges detonated early. Not Frost's charges, Chen's charges, hidden under different tables, wired to a separate trigger. 3 times more powerful than the tactical flashbangs Frost had authorized. The diner exploded into searing ultraviolet light. Vampires screamed. Lucian's people scattered, skin blistering. The businessman went down, smoke rising from exposed flesh. The couple by the window collapsed, convulsing. But Lucian didn't move. The UV reflective windows did exactly what Marcus promised, bouncing the light back, creating interference patterns that weakened the effect. The hidden mirrors scattered the beams, and Lucian's position in the corner booth put him in the one shadow the calculations said would exist. "What the hell?" Frost spun toward Chen. "Those aren't our charges." Chen pulled his weapon, not on Lucian, on Frost.
Sorry, Commander, change of plans. He fired 3 times, center mass, professional, fatal. Frost went down hard. Marcus cut the power. Darkness swallowed the diner. Emergency lights flickered on. Lucian's emergency lights, positioned to illuminate Frost's team while leaving his people in shadow. Gunfire erupted. Frost's agents returned fire blindly, hitting walls and windows. Chen's hidden backup team, 4 vampires loyal to House Morrow, crashed through the kitchen entrance. This was the real assault, the killing blow. Eliminate Frost's team, execute Lucian, and blame the whole massacre on a botched federal operation. But Sarah had counted on chaos, counted on people forgetting about the waitress behind the counter. She crawled through the darkness toward Frost's body. The commander was still breathing, blood spreading across her chest. Sarah's medic training kicked in. Pressure on the wounds, check for exit wounds, keep her conscious. Stay with me, Sarah whispered. Help is coming. Chen, I know, just breathe. Above them, the real battle unfolded. Lucian moved like smoke through darkness, disarming a vampire Morrow in one fluid motion. Marcus engaged 2 more near the kitchen. The businessman, Burns healing already, tackled an agent reaching for UV grenades. Isabel Morrow stepped out of the bathroom, grabbed Chen from behind, and slammed his head into the counter with inhuman strength. Once, twice, 3 times. He dropped, unconscious but alive. Target secured, she shouted. On the roof, Lucian's sniper fired. The opposing sniper went down, weapon clattering. The entire operation lasted 90 seconds. When emergency services arrived 7 minutes later, they found a war zone. Frost's team decimated. 3 dead, 5 wounded. Chen in custody, unconscious and zip-tied. The Morrow vampires had vanished into the night. And in the center of it all, Sarah Blake knelt over Frost Commander, hands covered in blood, keeping pressure on wounds that would have killed her in minutes. Paramedics rushed in. Sarah surrendered Frost to them, backing away slowly. Lucian appeared at her elbow. Time to go. I can't just leave. You can't stay. Look, he nodded toward the street. More vehicles arriving. Not police, not ambulances, black SUVs with government plates, men in suits who moved with the precision of people trained to kill. The conclave, Lucian said quietly. Supernatural oversight. They'll want statements from everyone. And if they take you into custody, I can't protect you. Sarah looked at Frost being loaded onto a stretcher, looked at the diner, her diner, the place where her old life had ended and something new had begun. She'd chosen a side, fought a battle, survived the night. But the war was just beginning, and Sarah Blake was no longer a waitress caught in the crossfire. She was a player on the board. The question was, what kind of player did she want to be? The sanctum's medical bay smelled like antiseptic and old blood. Sarah sat on an examination table while a vampire doctor, yes, they have those, he had said dryly, checked her for injuries. Bruised ribs from hitting the counter, cuts on her hands from crawling through broken glass, minor burns on her forearm from grazing a UV reflection. Nothing life-threatening, nothing that wouldn't heal. You're lucky, the doctor said, applying silver-based antibiotics. Rest, hydrate, try not to get shot at for at least 48 hours. Marcus was waiting outside the medical bay, his phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call when he saw her. Frost's in surgery, critical but stable. They're saying she'll pull through. He hesitated. She's been asking for you. Can I see her? Not yet. The conclave has the hospital locked down. No visitors without clearance. He guided her down the corridor. But there's something you need to see. The command center had transformed into a crisis management hub. Screens displayed news feeds, social media, internal communications. Every channel was covering the federal operation gone wrong at local diner. Official story, botched raid on suspected criminal activity. Officers wounded, suspects escaped, investigation ongoing. The truth was buried under layers of bureaucratic language and carefully edited footage. But other screens showed different stories, private forums, encrypted networks, places where the supernatural world discussed its business. Sarah's face was everywhere. The human who saved the vampire king, Lucian Vale's new asset, the waitress who chose a side. Her name, her service record, her address, though that apartment was already abandoned, photos of her at the VA clinic, the gun range, walking to work.
3 days ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was infamous. House Morrow has put a price on your head, Marcus said quietly. $50,000. Low for a vampire bounty, but high enough to attract attention from human contractors. Sarah's stomach turned. How do I make this stop? You don't. You can't unring this bell. Lucian entered from a side door, still wearing the suit from the diner, not a hair out of place. But we can make sure the narrative works in our favor. He pulled up a new screen, Chen's interrogation footage. The agent sat in a concrete room, handcuffed to a metal table. Isabel Morrow stood across from him, arms folded. No violence, no torture, just patient, relentless questioning. And Chen was talking. House Morrow recruited me 8 months ago. His voice crackled through speakers. They needed someone inside federal supernatural task forces, someone who could coordinate operations, feed intelligence, arrange accidents. What was your mission at the diner? Isabel asked. Eliminate Commander Frost and her team. Execute Lucian Vale, make it look like a federal operation gone wrong. He laughed bitterly. Frame Vale for cop killing. Start a war between vampires and human law enforcement. Who authorized the modified UV charges? House Morrow supplied them. Lord Antoine himself approved the payload. 3 times regulation strength, designed to kill, not capture. Lucian paused the video. We have 6 hours of testimony, financial records, communication logs, everything the Conclave needs to sanction House Morrow for accord violations. Will it work? Sarah asked. It already is. The Conclave convened an emergency session 3 hours ago. House Morrow is being called to answer for infiltrating human government, attempting assassination on neutral ground, and endangering the masquerade. He smiled coldly. They're finished politically. The question is what they do in desperation. Marcus pulled up another screen, security footage from outside Sarah's old apartment building. 3 figures in dark clothes moving with purpose. They kicked in her door, searched the empty rooms, left frustrated. Morrow foot soldiers, Marcus said. They hit your place 90 minutes ago. Also visited the VA clinic looking for Dr. Rashid. He's been moved to protective custody. He paused. And they sent someone to Dale's house. Sarah's heart stopped. He's fine. We had people watching him. They intercepted the Morrow operative before contact. Marcus met her eyes. But he knows something's wrong. He's been trying to call you for 2 hours. Sarah pulled out her phone. 17 missed calls, a dozen texts. Where are you? What happened at the diner? Police won't tell me anything. Please just let me know you're okay. Sarah, I'm worried. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Don't, gently. Not yet. Any contact puts him at risk. Morrow will be monitoring his communications. So I just let him think I'm dead? You let him think you're safe. There's a difference. Lucian pulled up a draft message on a burner account. We'll send this from a secure channel. Let him know you're alive, you're protected, and you'll explain when you can. Sarah read the message. It was kind, brief, deliberately vague, everything Dale needed to hear and nothing Morrow could use. He deserves better than this. He deserves to stay alive, which means keeping distance until Morrow is neutralized. Lucian sent the message. Give it time. When this is over, you can explain everything. Or nothing. Whatever helps him sleep at night. Another screen updated. Breaking news. Commander Elizabeth Frost out of surgery. Condition upgraded to serious but stable. And beneath it, a statement from federal authorities requesting information about Sarah Blake, person of interest in ongoing investigation. They're looking for you, Marcus said. Not as a suspect, as a witness. But if you surface now, Morrow kills me before I can testify, Sarah finished. So I'm stuck here. You're safe here, Lucian corrected. There's a difference. Isabel Morrow entered the command center, looking grimmer than before. We have a problem. My family just declared me anathema, excommunicated from the house. They're claiming I'm a traitor working with Vale. Are they wrong? Marcus asked. Technically, no, but it means my testimony against Chen won't carry weight in conclave proceedings. They'll say I'm a scorned exile making false accusations. She looked at Lucian. We need another witness, someone neutral, someone human. All eyes turned to Sarah.
No, she said immediately. Absolutely not. The conclave meets in 72 hours, Lucien said. If we present Chen's testimony, Morrow will claim coercion. If we present Isabel's testimony, they'll claim bias. But if we present testimony from a human who witnessed everything, the waitress with no political allegiances, no supernatural agenda, just someone who got caught in the crossfire, he paused, they'll believe you. They'll have to acknowledge you, Isabel added, and once your testimony is part of official conclave record, killing you becomes a capital offense. You'll be under accord protection. Lucien stepped closer. Right now, you're a loose end, a target, but if you testify, you become untouchable. Sarah looked at the screens surrounding her, her face on wanted lists and bounty boards, Dale's worried texts, Frost fighting for life in a hospital bed, the diner reduced to a crime scene. 3 days ago, she'd been nobody. Now she was the linchpin in a political war she barely understood. What happens if I say no? We find another way, hide you somewhere remote, new identity, new life. You disappear and hope Morrow eventually forgets about you. Lucien's voice was honest, unflinching. It's not a bad option. Many people would take it. But you don't think I will. I think you're not someone who runs. I think you stepped in front of a bullet because you couldn't stand by when someone died. He met her eyes. I think you'll testify because it's the right thing to do, even though it's terrifying, even though it locks you into this world permanently. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. On the screen, another news update. Funeral arrangements for the 3 federal agents killed in the diner firefight. Photos of the dead, young faces, someone's son, someone's daughter, people who thought they were serving justice. When is the conclave meeting? Friday, midnight, neutral ground in the old cathedral downtown. I'll testify. Sarah's voice was steady. But I want something in return. Name it. Frost. When she wakes up, when she learns the truth, I want her to know I tried to save her. I want her to know not everyone betrayed her. Sarah looked at Lucien. And I want protection for Dale, real protection, until this is over and Morrow is finished. Done. Lucien extended his hand. Thank you, Sarah, truly. She shook it. His grip was cool, firm, honest. I'm trusting you, she said quietly. Don't make me regret it. I'll do my best. He released her hand. Now get some rest. You have 3 days to prepare for the most important testimony of your life. Sarah left the command center, Marcus escorting her to guest quarters deep in the sanctum, a small room, clean bed, no windows, a cage with a comfortable mattress, but at least she'd chosen it. The conclave met in a cathedral that hadn't seen prayers in 70 years. Sarah stood in the nave at 11:47 p.m. Friday, surrounded by beings that shouldn't exist, vampires from a dozen houses dressed in everything from ancient formal wear to modern suits, human representatives from supernatural task forces worldwide, witches, werewolves, things she didn't have names for yet, all of them watching her.
Marcus stood 3 feet behind her, close enough to intervene, far enough to let her stand alone. Lucien sat in the gallery reserved for house leaders, expression unreadable. Across from him, Lord Antoine Morrow glared with undisguised hatred. The arbiter, an ancient vampire who looked like someone's kindly grandmother, called the session to order. We convene to address accusations of accord violations by House Morrow. The witness will approach. Sarah walked forward, boots echoing on stone. She'd dressed simply, dark jeans, black shirt, the leather jacket that had survived the diner. No weapons, no wire, just her and the truth. She raised her right hand. Do you swear to provide honest testimony under penalty of accord sanctions? I do. State your name. Sarah Blake, former Army medic, 82nd Airborne. Current, she paused, currently unemployed waitress. Quiet laughter rippled through the chamber. The tension broke slightly. For the next 40 minutes, Sarah told everything. The laser, saving Lucien, the photographs, Frost and Chen's recruitment, the diner sting, Chen's betrayal, the modified UV charges, Frost bleeding out while chaos raged around them.
She didn't embellish, didn't dramatize, just laid out facts the way she'd been trained to report field incidents. Clear, chronological, verifiable. When she finished, Lord Antoine stood. This testimony is fabricated, a human collaborator lying for her vampire master. His voice dripped contempt. She has no credibility, no proof, just the word of someone who chose to betray her own species. I have proof, Sarah said quietly. She nodded to Marcus, who activated a screen. Chen's interrogation footage played. His confession, the financial records, communication logs showing Chen reporting directly to House Morrow operatives. Agent Chen gave this testimony voluntarily, under truth compulsion, witnessed by 3 neutral conclave observers, Sarah continued. He detailed how Morrow recruited him, supplied modified UV charges, and ordered him to execute Commander Frost and her team. She turned to face Lord Antoine. He also provided names of 17 other human agents on your payroll. The conclave has already verified 12 of them. Silence filled the cathedral. The arbiter spoke. Lord Antoine, how do you answer these accusations? This is a conspiracy orchestrated by Lucien Vale to destroy my house. The evidence is comprehensive, the arbiter interrupted. Financial forensics confirm money transfers from Morrow accounts to Agent Chen. Ballistic analysis confirmed the UV charges were manufactured exclusively for House Morrow. And we have testimony from 3 separate witnesses, including one of your own blood. She gestured to Isabel, who sat in the exile section. How do you answer? Lord Antoine's composure cracked. She is anathema, a traitor. Her word means nothing. But mine does, Sarah said quietly. I'm human, no house allegiance, no supernatural agenda, just someone who watched you try to start a war that would have killed thousands. She stepped closer to the witness stand railing. I don't care about vampire politics. I don't care about centuries-old feuds. But I care about the 3 federal agents who died because you wanted power. I care about Commander Frost, who's relearning how to breathe because your operative shot her 3 times. I care about the people who will die if you're allowed to keep operating. Her voice echoed in the cathedral. Every eye was on her. So here's my testimony. House Morrow violated the accords, infiltrated human government, attempted assassination on neutral ground, and endangered the masquerade that keeps all of you safe. She looked directly at Lord Antoine. If you let this stand, you're telling every vampire in every city that the rules don't matter, that chaos is acceptable, that war is preferable to peace. The arbiter stood. The conclave will deliberate. All parties are dismissed until we render judgment. 2 hours later, the verdict came. House Morrow, guilty of accord violations, stripped of territorial rights, assets frozen. Lord Antoine and his inner circle remanded to conclave custody pending further investigation. The bounty on Sarah's head was nullified. Anyone who touched her would face capital sanctions. She was now under permanent accord protection. Lucien found her in the cathedral garden afterward, sitting on a stone bench under bare trees. You did it, he said, sitting beside her. House Morrow is finished. Frost will get justice. Chen will face trial in both human and supernatural courts. He paused. You're safe now. Officially safe. Sarah laughed without humor. I testified in front of vampires and witches about a government conspiracy involving supernatural infiltration. I'm never going to be safe again. No, Lucien agreed, but you'll be protected. There's a difference. They sat in silence for a moment. Dawn was hours away, but the night felt less dark somehow. I spoke with the conclave, Lucien said. They're offering you a formal position, human liaison, someone who can move between both worlds, interpret situations, prevent misunderstandings before they become conflicts. He looked at her. It's dangerous work, but it's important, and you're uniquely qualified. Because I saved your life?
Because you see clearly when everyone else is blinded by fear or ideology. Because you step into danger when everyone else runs away. Because you're honest in a world built on lies. He stood, offering his hand. I'm not asking you to work for me. I'm asking if you want to work with me. Build something better. Keep the peace. Save lives. Sarah looked at his extended hand. 3 days ago, she'd been a waitress serving coffee and trying to forget Kandahar. Now she was someone who'd testified before the conclave, someone with a price on her head, nullified but not forgotten, someone who couldn't go back to normal even if she wanted to. Dale had replied to her message, "Just come home when you can, I'll be here." But home didn't exist anymore, not the way it had. She took Lucian's hand and stood. "No lies," she said. "Ever. That's the deal." "No lies," he agreed. They walked back through the cathedral, past vampires and humans and things in between. Marcus fell into step beside them, along with Isabel, who'd been pardoned by the conclave and offered a place in Lucian's house. "So what now?" Sarah asked. "Now we rebuild, clean up Morrow's network, help Frost's task force restructure, make sure this doesn't happen again." Lucian glanced at her. "And we find you a better apartment, preferably one with actual security. And a lock that works," Marcus added. Sarah smiled despite everything. "Sounds like a plan." They emerged into the pre-dawn darkness. The city sprawled before them, ordinary people sleeping in ordinary beds, unaware of the shadow wars fought to keep them safe. A black sedan waited at the curb. Sarah paused at the cathedral steps, looking back one last time. She could see her reflection in the ancient doors, pale, exhausted, but standing, still human, still herself, still here. She climbed into the sedan. Lucian sat across from her, Marcus in front, Isabel beside her. The door closed with that familiar vault-like sound. "Where to?" the driver asked. Lucian looked at Sarah. "Your choice." She thought about the diner, about Dale and Dr. Rashid, and the life she'd left behind, about Frost recovering in a hospital bed, about Chen awaiting trial, about all the moving pieces in a game she was just beginning to understand. "The sanctum," she said finally. "I need coffee and a debriefing on everything I just walked into." "Welcome to the team," Isabel said with a sharp smile. The sedan pulled away from the cathedral, carrying Sarah Blake toward whatever came next. Behind her, the old life receded like a dream. Ahead, something new and uncertain and dangerous waited. But for the first time since Kandahar, she wasn't running from danger. She was running toward purpose. The city lights blurred past the window. Sarah caught her reflection in the glass, shadowed, determined, and irrevocably changed. A waitress who saved a vampire king, a human who chose a side, a survivor who finally found something worth fighting for. She smiled. "So," she said, turning to Lucian, "tell me everything I need to know about this new job, starting with whether there's a dental plan." Lucian laughed, genuine and surprised. "I think you're going to fit in perfectly." The sedan disappeared into the maze of sleeping streets, carrying Sarah Blake toward whatever came next. Behind her, the old life receded like a dream. Ahead, something new and uncertain and dangerous waited. But for the first time since Kandahar, she wasn't running from danger. She was running toward purpose. The city lights blurred past the window. Sarah caught her reflection in the glass, shadowed, determined, and irrevocably changed. A waitress who saved a vampire king, a human who chose a side, a survivor who finally found something worth fighting for. She smiled. "So," she said, turning to Lucian, "tell me everything I need to know about this new job, starting with whether there's a dental plan." Lucian laughed, genuine and surprised. "I think you're going to fit in perfectly." The sedan disappeared into the maze of sleeping streets, carrying Sarah Blake toward whatever came next. Behind her, the old life receded like a dream. Ahead, something new and uncertain and dangerous waited. But for the first time since Kandahar, she wasn't running from danger. She was running toward purpose. The city lights blurred past the window. Sarah caught her reflection in the glass, shadowed, determined, and irrevocably changed. A waitress who saved a vampire king, a human who chose a side, a survivor who finally found something worth fighting for. She smiled. "So," she said, turning to Lucian, "tell me everything I need to know about this new job, starting with whether there's a dental plan." Lucian laughed, genuine and surprised.
I think you're going to fit in perfectly." The sedan disappeared into the maze of sleeping streets, carrying Sarah Blake toward whatever came next. Behind her, the old life receded like a dream. Ahead, something new and uncertain and dangerous waited. But for the first time since Kandahar, she wasn't running from danger, she was running toward purpose.